The Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, said something the other day. We're used to outrageous statements from members of the Trump administration, but this one stuck with me, not just because it was outrageous, the outrageous is commonplace nowadays, but because it was outrageous in a way that was by no means unique to the Trump administration, except perhaps for its honesty. Now, remember, Mike Pompeo is the Secretary of State. He was a former Republican politician. He is now, he used to be the CIA director. That's not irrelevant. And he gave a talk at Texas A&M University recently where he began by saying it's great to be in Texas, one of the greatest countries in the world. Ha ha ha. Okay. And he talks a lot about, he answers some questions from students too about his experience as Secretary of State. And Pompeo's a Tea Party guy pretty much, so you get what you expect with a guy like that. But this is the remark that stuck with me. I want to play it for you now and then talk about it a little bit. So let's hear Secretary of State Mike Pompeo.
Different set of challenges. It reminds me, you would know this as a bit of an aside, but in terms of how you think about problem sets, when I was a cadet, what's the cadet motto at West Point? You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It was like we had entire training courses. It reminds you of the glory of the American experiment.
Well, let me stop here. That's the statement that I wanted you to hear before I go any further. He says, when you think about, in terms of how you think about problems, that's what I assume is just a sort of administrative speak, management speak way of saying problems, that when you think about problems, when I was a cadet, meaning a West Point cadet, what was the cadet motto at West Point? Mike Pompeo says, you will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. That is, in fact, the cadet motto. I was the CIA director, he goes on to say. We lied, we cheated, we stole, which was amusing to himself and the audience. It was like we had entire training courses. And then he goes on to say it reminds you of the glory of the American experiment. And I have no idea where he went to in his mind on that one. But I want to talk about this. When I was the CIA director, we lied, we cheated, we stole, we had entire training courses. This is, in fact, what the CIA and all intelligence agencies do. They do, in fact, lie. They do, in fact, cheat. They do, in fact, steal. Now, when you bring that up in certain circles, you get called a moralist and a preacher and self-righteous because you may have been raised, as I was, to think those things are bad. Now, of course, there are times to do that for the greater good, but who gets to decide who's the greater good and what's the greater good? Who gets to make that decision when it's morally okay to lie, to cheat, to steal? Now, it may be a joke to Mike Pompeo. It's not a joke to me. It's deadly serious stuff. And furthermore, when you get in the habit of lying, cheating, and stealing, I imagine it gets pretty easy. And the reason I bring this up for a couple of reasons, okay? One of the reasons that I bring it up is because in previous iterations, when I did State Department consulting or international business work, I was around, a little bit around, mostly retired intelligence people. They were okay. They were friends even, some of them in their own way. But I knew that we had existed in different worlds. And I know that once you decide it's okay to lie and to cheat and to mislead nice people in other countries to get the outcome you want for yours, it's a very, very short moral walk to start to lie and to cheat in your own country. Now, you may think you're doing it for the greater good. You may think it's noble of you to lie and cheat. You may even think, as I think many people do, that they are superior to those who wouldn't lie and cheat and steal because they're operating on some more sophisticated plane. But nevertheless, you're lying. and you're cheating. And I bring this up for a variety of reasons, but one of the reasons is to please beg you not to take people who have done this as part of their training, as their profession, as people who are deliverers of the gospel truth. They are by nature not going to be. They are by nature more likely than the average person to lie to you to get the outcome that they think, not that you think, but that they think is in the best interests of whatever they've decided is their value system or their ideal. And in case you think that was my only message, no, I'm going somewhere with this, which is, as I've talked about before, the resistance, hashtag resistance, has too often tended to take people who come out of this world of professional liars and cheaters. And again, I'm not saying that there would never be a circumstance where you might need to lie for the greater good, but the resistance has tended to take people who have been this in their training and treat them as heroes. Let me give you a couple examples of who I mean. Jack Schaefer did an excellent piece for Politico that was given the headline, "The Spies Who Came into the TV Studio." And he writes that a number of former CIA directors have become public political commentators on our news stations. And as he points out, one of them ran for president, and one that would be George H.W. Bush. John Brennan somehow has become a hero of the resistance because he really, really hates Donald Trump. Well, you know what? Maybe he hates Donald Trump, or maybe he's telling you he hates Donald Trump for a higher purpose. I think he probably does hate Donald Trump, to be honest, but that doesn't make him a trustworthy guy. In fact, I think he's anything but a trustworthy guy. And yet he is, for NBC News, a, quote, senior national security and intelligence analyst, and served, as Jack Schaefer says, his first expert views on last Sunday's edition of Meet the Press. Now, again, this is not a person for whom truth is the highest calling, as a journalist, for example, is supposed to believe. This is somebody who is trained to say whatever he has to say to achieve the outcome he wants, and the outcome that he wants is a more powerful national security state. Now, CNN already employs James Clapper, and former CIA director Michael Hayden to do a similar thing. Now, I will say the same things about both James Clapper and Michael Hayden, but I will add for James Clapper that this man is a demonstrated perjurer, that he in fact lied to Congress. There's very clear evidence of it when he said that American emails and other forms of electronic communications were not subject to surveillance, that was strictly untrue. Then, of course, the Snowden revelations came about. It was clear that he had perjured himself before Congress, and yet he too remains, to many people, a hero of the resistance because he doesn't like Donald Trump. Folks, don't let yourselves get played. That's all I'm going to say. But there are other people in various aspects of law enforcement and the national security state who are serving as media advisors, Homeland Security advisors, FBI directors, people of this kind. They're all over CNN, all over MSNBC, all over other networks, and they are not to be trusted. Now, who is to be trusted? Well, first of all, your own sense of right and wrong, your own sense of justice, your own sense of fair play, that's something to be trusted. And if you have an experience of horror or revulsion, for example, when you see children being killed by drone bombs, well, that sense of horror and revulsion is to be trusted too. I think we need to make our way out of this hall of mirrors as quickly as possible.